Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Tech Blueprint podcast. Today, we're going to be diving into a story that'll resonate with a lot of founders, builders, and anyone trying to bring real impact through AI. Today, I'm joined by Sean Ahern, one of the co-founders behind Lir AI, which is a company that's taken a very honest and very practical approach to automation and AI in the enterprise world. What started as a simple idea to solve one problem has now evolved into something much bigger, shaped by real customer feedback, a couple of tough pivots, and some huge learnings along the way. In this episode 8, we're going to get into how Lir AI started, the early lessons that forced a rethink, what the new model looks like, and how they're carving out a space, I suppose, in a crowded AI landscape by focusing on actual value. We'll also talk about the realities of running lean, rebuilding after a pivot, and what success looks like for them over the next year. For any founders listening, there might even be a closing nugget of advice from people who have lived it all firsthand. Let's get into it. I'm really excited about this one. Hi, Sean. Good afternoon. Good to get talking to you again. Thanks for having some time for me today.
Thanks, Jack. Good to see you again.
So, obviously, look, really keen to get stuck into question one, probably the most important question of all. Who is Lir AI? How did it come about? What sort of problems were you guys originally trying to solve, Sean?
Yeah. So, look, I suppose Lir AI is an AI assistant platform. And when I started at this, everything was about agents. So when I was looking at GPT-3 and looking at building some agents myself, there wasn't very much around agents. But what I really was looking at was AI assistants. You know, I had this kind of vision in my mind where you could just log on and talk to your friendly AI pal, and your pal would understand you, understand your business, understand everything that you want out of it. And I realized that it was some distance away from that. But I also saw that it was possible. I've spent a lot of time in low code and in automation. And so from my perspective, I thought actually AI assistance isn't something in the future. It's something that can be achievable right now. And one of the things that I was doing very early on was context engineering. There was no term for it back in the day, but I was doing context engineering to try and get my personal assistant to understand all of the context about me. Now, it came about because when I started with AI first, as an automation professional, I picked up Copilot, and I was immediately quite frustrated. I'm a big Microsoft fan. I'm an ex-Microsoft employee. I was just frustrated with where it was at the time. And so I suppose coming from an automation and specifically an AI automation, a kind of a low-code automation, background, I saw the potential to build a platform on which we can automate, we can use AI, it can be context aware, all of that kind of stuff, so that you have useful personal assistance in work. And I knew that security was a big part of that. So I come from a compliance background, and so I could kind of foresee the conversations that would be happening at an infosec level in organizations, and I kind of wanted to get ahead of that because I saw that there was a big gap in that regard too in the market. So I just saw, I saw that potentially there were some easy wins around this, and I started building a platform. Now, I built the first version of it over a weekend using low code. It's very quick to build if you're using low code. But ultimately, what I saw later was a way to optimize. So although I got it working very quickly, what I saw was actually something that I kind of built into it called context intelligence engine, What I saw was that the accuracy level of the AI was not really where I wanted it to be. So over time, I've been working on getting that accuracy up and up and up and up. And to the point where we've got something that really is different. I mean, as soon as you use it, the accuracy level that you expect is left behind in the dust. The type of stuff that we're getting out of this, and we're starting to use it ourselves, for our own purposes, more and more and more. But the type of stuff you get out of it is just phenomenal. So as a process person, it just excites the hell out of me.
100%. You mentioned obviously the process improvement side of things there. So both yourself and Ben, your other co-founder, you both have strong backgrounds in that, as well as obviously the low code tech. So how is that shaped, what you're building today then?
Yeah, so so Ben and I are kind of the leads on this at the moment. Ben Gagan, he's the CEO, and I am the CIO. I'm focusing mainly on the technology, but we both come from a process background. So we both worked in Microsoft for a while. Ben, I say for a while, it's 20 odd years. For me, it was closer to probably 10 or 15 all in. But we worked on kind of, organizational efficiencies looking at process, looking at kind of lean transformations. It's scale, really looking at the risk kind of platform or the risk kind of environments and looking at scaled environments. And we worked, across compliance, across operations, across finance, across sales, lots of different touch points. Ben is a Six Sigma black belt, so he's very much got the, he's got the credentials to back this up other than just the experience. And we, outside of working in Microsoft, Ben and I had an automation Microsoft partner. So we automated processes, scores of processes, probably close on 100, using low code and using Power Automate, which would be the automation platform or RPA platform within Microsoft. So I suppose as a partner in the past, rolling out automations, and as automation and process professionals, kind of going back some time, thought we were pretty strongly positioned for this. Funnily enough, we didn't really push our kind of data security and process security credentials until much later on, when we realized, our experience in the enterprise and SME space is quite extensive and really is a big value add in terms of what we can bring to the market.
Perfect. Obviously, you talked about sort of the earlier version of Lir AI. What made you to sort of maybe like pivot, or what was the biggest lesson from that earlier version compared to what you guys are doing at the minute?
I mean, lots of lessons, but I think that at the highest level, we were trying to sell a product, and we probably bought into the hype a little bit. Build it and they'll come. So we probably made a little bit of that as a mistake at the start. We actually set up for distribution at scale. So we have, obviously, being in the Microsoft ecosystem and the partner network before, we have a good network of other partners, etc. So we were looking to optimize our distribution. Now, what we found was that our customers, while they were very interested in the platform and really interested in what it can do, they really wanted outcomes, not demos and not potential. So what we realized is that we're probably best placed to deliver that in the first instance. The expectation is that everybody wants AI because it's so hot and it's so hype, but actually it's quite a risk adverse environment. I mean, for a start, there's a high failure rate on AI initiatives. So we realize we have to establish trust in the AI, trust in ourselves as a service provider, and we need to be able to validate the value that it can offer. What we ended up doing actually was going more towards a service and a consult kind of a base. So we have a product, but we will get directly involved in showing you how to use it and how to optimize it and how to get the most value out of it, really looking for that kind of, rapid ROI. But the big part of it, I think, and this is really, I think this is going to apply for the next couple of years to anyone in the industry, is the idea of pilot purgatory. The idea that a lot of people get into an initiative with AI, and then they realize some expectations were wrong. We can't deliver exactly on what we thought we were going to deliver. So how can we change it? How can we, pivot slightly? And they end up in a space where they're trying to achieve something in AI without a, target or end in sight. And that's a very common thing. I think Gartner had it measured at 95% of pilots are falling into this kind of purgatory space, or at least they're not working as they were intended. So what we've tried to do, I suppose, is we've tried to limit the risk and cost to people who are trying to dip their toes, who just want to find out what can we do with AI, because typically there's one big, easy win among organizations' processes. So what we're saying is, okay, we'll approach each automation or each workflow on a week by week basis, where we say, okay, we'll put out an output that you will be able to, touch and use and understand and test a little bit yourself before we do anything else after that 1 week. So we take it week by week by week. Our kind of initial proof of value is, let's go after the highest return automation that we can see what we can do with it within 1 week. We can do a lot, and we've got some examples of stuff that we have done over the course of 1 week. But really, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get over those barriers to sale, where am I going to fall into the 95%? Am I going to throw my money into another AI solution and not see any real value out of it? Yeah, our 5K 5-day proof of value is intended to kind of bring people over that trust barrier so they can see the real impact and as I say, touch and feel it within their own organization and within their own life processes.
I think you covered quite a lot of it there, but I was wondering, could we go into a bit more detail in terms of like this new model? What does this actually look like, and how does it change the way that your customers then are going to use your product?
Yeah, and I suppose with the model that we kind of pivoted two things really. We pivoted on the commercial side, we pivoted on the technical side. I mean, commercially, what we're really doing is we're trying to optimize time and value for business.
Yeah,
we have that kind of, I suppose, experience that we understand where the bottom line is and where it is that we need to actually shift the needle. So I suppose focusing on that boxed risk and focusing on just one workflow and one automation per sprint, it allows us first of all to validate the platform. So it's secure, it's safe, it's auditable, it's governable, so you can control who uses it. Control it within your own tenant and this kind of thing. So it's very easy to onboard and offboard in the first instance.
Okay.
But ultimately what we're trying to do is we're saying, well, if you've got this platform and you've got one automation that we can look at, give us a week, we'll see how far we can automate it and how much effort we can take out of it. We'll measure it, we'll send it back to you at that stage. You can kind of see, is it something that you want to continue with, something that you want to expand on? The platform is there. You just need to pick the next automation, and if you're getting the value out of it, then it starts to become very easy to see where the next automation is coming from. Now, that's kind of coupled with a technical kind of pivot as well. We were, as I say, selling primarily to partners. So what we were looking for was the partners to optimize the system for the users. We've built in effectively self-optimization for our pals, for our AI assistants. So whereas we were kind of in the first instance hoping that people would bring this as a skill set into their domain, we realized we actually have to do this ourselves automatically using the AI first. So now every PAL that's created has effectively two things: a contract and a whiteboard.
Okay.
So this is really how we optimize them. The contract is everything that we know about the company, the user, all of the static kind of information, but it is their Bible, so to speak. That's what they work from. And so that's built every time you create a PAL, builds a new contract specifically for that PAL and that task and that expertise. But then when you're talking to the PAL, it's got a whiteboard, which is constantly making notes on. It's constantly pulling back snippets from conversations and this kind of thing so that it can, when you ask it something, it can answer contextually relevant and optimized answers. We're also optimizing for chain of thought, which is something a little bit more nuanced. But ultimately, what we're seeing now is that we can put this in front of people and they can pick it up. Because it's self-optimizing, they can see the immediate value out of just creating a standard PAL, no automations at all, and that we're looking to back that up then with our commercial model, which brings automation and the platform as a whole into play.
Okay, fantastic. As I suppose a lean startup that's had to, rebuild, pivot, refocus, what would you say has been the hardest part, and what would you say has surprised you the most?
I mean, what's the hardest part is probably hard to pinpoint, but I would say that the thing that we're working on most is discipline at the moment. It's that discipline of following our process. We were able to build, some of our own solutions for ourselves, and because we have that kind of process background, we're able to build quite modular, quite scalable processes. Like, for instance, we've built a signals PAL, which goes out and searches online for buying signals that we might be able to source some leads, cold leads. And then we can translate that into a AI-produced, set of documents. So a one-pager or a white pager or a proof of concept proposal. All of that stuff can be done so quickly. And really what we're looking to do is we're looking to bring up our discipline to the point that we can match what the AI gives us in terms of a process. It's given us some absolutely amazing ability to go into the market and capture leads and to start to convert on them. But then where's our founders spending their time? Where's our staff spending their time?
Yeah.
How quickly can we convert a discovery, and what do we need to do in terms of that kind of week or two in between?
Yeah.
If we have a demo, how do we get into that discovery or into that proof of value? That's the bit that we're really focusing on now. As I said, once we get into the discovery phase, we are learning that if we're providing the service with it, if we're saying we can give you the outcome and not the platform, that we've got a very high conversion rate. People are there's a high demand for it.
Yeah.
But that risk adversity has been an obstacle, I suppose, for us in the past. And what we're finding is that this, if we're disciplined in our approach, if we follow the sales process that our sales pals have helped us build, we get some good conversions, we get some good traction. So I suppose after our pivot, we're still, it's still quite fresh. It was only in the course of the last few months.
Of course.
But getting that level of discipline up to the point that we can really execute on our plan, that's the focus, at least at the moment.
100%. So looking ahead then, what might success look like for you guys then over the next 12 months?
Repeatability. So our product is a highly scalable platform for AI, for repeating AI automations in whatever the automation. But we're looking for that ourselves. We want a steady stream of proof of values kind of going out, of discoveries. It's sometimes it's hard to charge for those, but we have to be better at that. That's part of the discipline as well, is just making sure that our time is value and our value is time. And ultimately we're looking to build on our partner ecosystem. So we have a number of partners who are currently successfully selling it into their own markets in the UK and the Netherlands. We're looking at the US shortly. But what we're really looking to do is to educate them as to how they can bring Lir into the solution environments that they're looking at. And a big part of that is actually giving them access to our sales process. Our sales process, as I say, this AI-backed sales process is just so interesting, but it is highly repeatable. So giving it to the likes of a partner who's looking to sell our software, or even some of their own software, one of the products on their line, there's a lot that can be learned by just using the tool yourself. So really what we're looking for is we're looking for repeatability across the channel. And we want to be able to direct sell as much as we possibly can. As I say, we want to be in the room showing success and actually building those outcomes. Yeah. But at the same time, if we're looking at a kind of a wider reach, then we need to have a partner network to support that. Yeah. And they need to be educated, they need to be experienced, and they need to have a clean sight on the opportunities that are in front of them. And so over the next 12 months, if we can get a repeatable sales process, for our direct sales, and if we can get some good repetition out of our partners, and that involve a lot of support, but if we can lead them through our kind of disciplined, repetitive cycle, I think the next 12 months will really prove how the AI assistants, certainly in the sales space, can maximize your output, maximize your time, and generate some good business as we're seeing now. Yeah.
Awesome. The final question for me, for maybe perhaps some of the other founders listening, actually, what would be one thing maybe you wish you'd known before starting this particular journey?
Probably not to buy into the hype as much. That the buyers in AI are risk adverse. Like the reality is, it's I suppose we all know it's the Wild West. That you've got people putting whatever you have no idea into Gemini, into Claude, into ChatGPT, and so there's a governance concern there, which is driving behaviors on the ground. And I think that most people see us as still being in the very early stages of AI. You've got one for doing your meeting notes, and you've got one for maybe doing tenders or something like that. And there's all these isolated kind of AI platforms. But people are not really willing to go too much further than that without demonstrated outcomes. And I think that our main the main regret that I have is not following a more traditional approach to putting this business up and running. I mean, it's not the first business I've been involved in, certainly in terms of from startup into maturity. But this one, we probably bought into the hype a little bit too more. Ultimately, you need that, traditional success metrics, cross 10, stay lean, focus on your own needs, big part of it for us, and demonstrate success. I think we probably didn't invest enough in our own solutions on our own platform. We were so busy building and so busy trying to sell that we didn't spend enough time trying to build it for ourselves. And as soon as we did, we realized, well, not only is this providing a huge amount of value, but it is it's repeatable. It's something that we can show to our customers and say, look, here's a real success we've had, and would you like to look at that? And that is, there's no better kind of statement of confidence than well, we're using it successfully ourselves. So I think that ultimately buying into the hype was maybe a mistake. Sticking with the traditional success kind of KPIs, that's definitely the way to go about this. And we've got a lot of big players in the market that are offering the sun, moon, and stars. So there's a lot of that going on. But I suppose trying to determine a solid business in the Wild West scenario that is AI, we maybe got a couple of things wrong at the start, which led to our pivot and led to our kind of, growing understanding of what it is that the market needs right now and what they're willing to accept from a risk and cost perspective. But definitely, I think that the last year there's been a lot of shift in the market. So whereas when we started this a year and a half ago, or when the initial proof of concept was put together, it was a very different selling environment than it is now. And it's developing on a month-by-month basis. I mean, once we get into next year, things will be different again. But you've got to treat it as a traditional business. It's not really any different than any other business at the end of the day. You're just providing a high ROI, relatively low labor service. Yeah.
100%. Great advice. Loads of lessons there. I think that was obviously a really great episode. I've no further questions for you, Sean. I suppose just want to finish up by saying thanks again for taking the time this afternoon and for jumping on. And I'll be sure, as always, to make sure that I tag you and stuff on the LinkedIn post so people can continue to connect with you guys. And I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of your journey continue.
Thanks, Jack. It was great to be here, and thanks for inviting me.